What is up guys, before we start this video, just letting you know about the sponsor of this video, my business, Drop the Anchor Clothing. You can jump onto droptheanchorclothing.com.au, use my code MikeLakeGang, grab yourself 15% off everything on the store. It massively supports myself and the channel, helps me build all the cars, helps me push out content to you guys. So if you want to support the channel, or you just want some rad clothing, especially for this winter, jump on, grab yourself a discount, grab yourself some cool gear. Also, we have our brand new trackies dropping mid next week. They're super comfy, super thick, perfect for those winter days. So if you're not in Australia, we'll still ship them out to you, so jump on, grab yourself some gear. What is up? Welcome back to another video working on our beautiful Fevo. I know you guys have been begging for another video on this thing, and I'm stoked to finally be back working on it. Now, for anyone who hasn't been following the channel, this is our 2001 CE Lancer that we've pretty much converted to be like a budget Evo. This thing looks freaking awesome. Still has the stock motor in it, but we'll put a turbo on it, of course. Front mount intercooler, tuned it. Thing goes freaking awesome. Huge amount of fun to drive. It's got the 4G93 1.8 litre motor, completely stock internals, makes good power. I think we made like 155 kilowatts on the dyno last time we were there, but the clutch was slipping. I think it's going to be about 180 kilowatts by the time things are all said and done. Now, there have been some people commenting on some of the videos being like, that's not a real Evo. Clearly, we know that it's not a real Evo. That's why we call it like a budget Evo build, because this is exactly what it is. Looks like an Evo, has the turbo like an Evo, just as fun probably as an Evo, just as four-wheel drive. And clearly, I know, it is not an Evo, okay? I admit that, of course, guys. But nonetheless, it's less than the third of the price of an Evo, and I freaking love this thing. But, so the only issue I have with this car is the rear end, okay? So the front looks absolutely fantastic. Yeah, we've got the beautiful bumper. We've got the nice, you can't see it because it's open, but we've got the Evo style bonnet on there. It looks fantastic. We've got the side skirts. That looks awesome. We've got the rear wing. That looks great, but the rear end is just letting it down a bit in terms of how aggressive it looks. It still looks pretty Lancer-ish, if you ask me, as opposed to having that Evo look. So there's a couple of things we're missing to really give this thing that aggressive look and feel. And that is, of course, the Evo rear bumper. So I went and picked this one up, again, off Facebook Marketplace. I think I paid about $150 for it. And then just to finish the look off, we're also installing the boot garnish lights, which are commonly found on the Evos. So this goes in here in the boot and gives it that like mad Evo look, which I just can't wait to install these, because I know these are going to be like the finishing touch that this thing needs just to look super aggressive from behind. Also, the bumper on this thing is the stock bumper that came on the car, and I like quickly painted over it, but it's absolute rubbish. Like, if you see, it's just got damage everywhere. It's not the best. We've got the rear pods on it, and you know, they look alright, but look, this is tape right here that's holding this side of the bumper up. So all in all, this bumper's just been rubbish from the get-go, and I've just tried to make it look as good as possible while I waited for something like this to pop up. A lot of you guys always hit me up and say, how do you, like, you can't get things that cheap, rah how do you find them that cheap? I'm always on Facebook Marketplace. You've got to search, you've got to be quick to get the deals. A lot of times I miss out on the deals because someone gets in before me, but I'm always searching and always looking, and that's how I get these things, right? That's how we're able to build things like the budget Civic that we're currently in the middle building, and the Fevo, not the Datsun. This thing, these are never going to be cheap no matter how many times you look on Facebook Marketplace, but you get the point. So today we're doing the rear end swap, which I'm so excited about. So first things first, I'm going to rip off the rear bumper. I hate it, it's going in the bin, so Mighty Car Mods say. We're going to test fit this bumper, make sure it's all good. As you can see here, like this side, this is like bent, so I have to heat gun that out because it's plastic, and get it nice and straight. Get the bumper fitting well, and then we'll pull it off, and obviously we have to do a bunch of sanding, and we're going to paint the rear bumper, and then we'll get on to the garnish lights. So first things first, let's get rid of this frickin' manky bumper. So we're now test fitting the new bumper. So I grabbed the heat gun and I just manipulated just this side of things a little bit so that it's going to sit nicely, and it should be pretty spot on, which is good. Obviously this bumper, like I said, it needs some work, so we're going to go ahead and smash that out in a second, but it's definitely going to change the whole look of the rear end, which is freaking awesome. So much more aggressive. Covers the exhaust nicely as well, so once it's all up, the tip kind of just sits perfect. So good. So yeah, really excited to have this done. So go ahead, now we're going to pull that off. Now that we know that it fits nicely, we're going to sand it all down and then start priming and we'll paint it, and then unfortunately we'll have to leave it overnight. Now something I've learned with cars is it's just a massive game of patience. When you rush things, you basically muck things up. So we're going to paint it, clear it, leave it overnight to dry. It's rapid dry and clear, so it does dry in a couple of hours, but we're going to leave it overnight just to make sure it's perfect. I don't want to have to redo this bumper. There's some things on this car that I'm going to do again, like the rear quarters, because I'm not happy with the work that I did on them the first time. They look good from far, but they're far from good in terms of looking up close. But these things are things that you learn, especially when you're learning to kind of paint cars. I still am such an amateur at it, learning new things every time I'm doing it. But yeah, definitely improvements that can be made on the rear quarters. And I'm also going to repaint the bonnet as well, because I've actually had to add patches, fiberglass patches to the underside because it was cracked. Also, a bunch of you detectives were noticing in the last video that this is defected, this vehicle, because you'll never guess why. The reason I got defected is so funny. Well, I didn't get defected, my friend Joel did while he was driving it. They're happy with everything on the car, other than the bonnet had cracks in down the side here. It was cracked, so it was a bit flimsy, right? So when they had it up here, they noticed the cracks on each side, so I patched them up with fiberglass now so we can clear the defect tomorrow. And that's why structurally the bonnet wasn't sound enough for the police. They weren't happy with it, so they defected the car, and that's why. So everything else they were happy with, so I'm pretty happy about that, because the bonnet, not such a bad thing, but just a really unexpected thing to get defected for. It's a fiberglass bonnet, so you know, I guess that's why. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and repaint that bonnet as well, because again, it could just be a little bit better. And then the whole car needs a wet sand and a polish ceramic coating, but I don't want to do all that obviously until we've finished the body work that we're going to finish. So yeah, I want to get this thing looking perfect. Alright, so some time has passed. Had to move the Fevo outside. She's got the skid wheels on the back as well. Suss that out. Going drifting in the Fevo later. Just kidding. I literally did consider rear wheel driving this car at one point, and sometimes it slips into my mind that I should do it, and maybe one day we will. But so as you can see, our rear bumper is beautifully done in primer. Sanded the whole thing down, got imperfections out of it, primered it, and then I 400 grit sanded again after the primer, so it's beautifully nice and smooth. Lovely. And then I tack clothed it. I'll do this again before I actually spray it, just to get any, like, you know, this just picks up any crappy little bits on it. The tack cloth is just a sticky cloth, it's really nice. Should definitely do this before you spray. And now we'll go ahead, mix up the paint and spray it. Now it's a little bit cold tonight, so I'm a bit wary of that. So what I'm going to do is paint it with the base coat, and then I'll heat gun it just to get some heat into that paint straight away, see if it settles, and then it should be fine though. And then we'll go ahead and clear it, and then I'll hit that again straight away with the heat gun just to kind of get the clear activating, and then I'll shut this door, leave it for the night, and it should cure, no worries. But yeah, always wary that it's just a bit colder, and you're not really supposed to paint once it gets below a certain temperature, although don't really quote me because I'm not an expert. But I'm pumped on this, man. Next up, mix paint and spray the silver. Let's go. Okie dokie, Fandamily. Sounding like frickin' Ned Flanders over here. Base coat is laid down. Fairly happy with the whole thing. Looking rad for a $150 bumper. I mean, it's actually looking awesome. Real happy with it. Got the heat gun on it straight away. Dried up super nicely. So now it's time to lay down the clear, and then we're gonna leave it for the night. It's like excruciating because all I want to do is bolt it up to the car and see what it looks like, but patience is a virtue apparently. And then tomorrow we can also fit the boot garnish as well. And when we shut that boot for the first time and see what it all looks like, I'm so pumped, because I know it's just going to be that finishing touch that we're looking for on this car. So now I'm going to go ahead, whip up that clear, we're going to spray it on, and then we'll head out for the night. And our clear is in the gun, through the filter. Boom, 2 parts clear, 1 part hardener. And we're ready to spray the gloss down. Let's go. Just like that, the clear is laid down. Look at that, she's a little bit glossy. Whoo! Love that. Look, I will be the first to admit, it is not absolutely perfect, but for a factory spray job, it is pretty darn awesome. So, very happy with that. Now we have to let it dry. Look, I look all like scary with the light coming up on the bottom, like from the floor. So I'm gonna clean up and then I'll meet you guys back here tomorrow, which is actually in about 1 second because of YouTube. We'll chuck this rear bumper back on. Damn, I'm so pumped. Put those lights in, see how she looks, but hopefully tomorrow the look of the Fevo is complete. See you in a second. Yo, bye. Woohoo, didn't see you there. And just like that, we are back. Day 2, working on the Fevo. And our bumper is all nice and dry. Look at that. I'm so excited to fit this to the back of the car. So without further ado, we're not going to waste our time. Let's throw this on the back, see what it looks like, and then we need to mount our new boot lights, which are going to be slightly tricky, but I'll get to that in a second. Let's go. Boom! Rear bumper is on. Looks so cool. Obviously the car's not even on the ground yet and I'm pumped on it. I'm happy enough with it overall in terms of the condition of the car versus the condition of the bumper. Basically, it kind of suits it, if you know what I mean. But I am tossing up whether to get this car fully resprayed and painted properly at some point by a professional panel beater and paint shop. Like I said at the start of the video, this thing looks good like when you stand here like this, but when you go up and look close, there are just like imperfections, you know. It is an old car. I'm not a car painter, so there are a couple of things here and there that aren't the best. Also, I did muck it up a little bit right here on this edge because there was no tab for the bumper to bolt to, so I had to weld a tab on, and obviously when you weld it heats the paint up. But I always knew anyway that I was going to redo this quarter because there's like a run right here that I did when I painted it last time and I just didn't get it as good as I wanted it, so I'm going to repaint the quarter and probably the other quarter as well, and a bunch of things on the car like I said. So but the bumper does look so good. It's a massive upgrade. It just suits the side skirts and carries on through all the way around, so it looks rad. Exhaust looks so good with the bumper, so yeah. Also the lip, I'm not stoked. I didn't realize it's not the best fitment. Like you can see there's a gap here, so I'll probably remove it and redo it. So yeah, but as it sits though, I'm happy enough with the rear bumper and how it looks on the car. The paint matches perfect, which is sick. So now we've got to do the rear garnish lights. So when we install the spoiler, right, the best thing about Mitsubishi is, well, the best thing about these Lancers is they already have the holes like in the boot, and all we had to do was drill through them. So the template is there perfectly, which is so good, because it just makes life easy, especially when you're fitting something like a spoiler. It's so hard to get perfectly centered and where it's supposed to be. Now the same can be said for the tail lights. So as you can see here, we've got these mounting bolts that need to go through the boot, right? Obviously there's nothing there at the moment, so we're gonna have to cut a hole. It's very nerve-wracking cutting a hole in a boot if, you know what I mean, if you don't get it right, it's not gonna look good. But luckily, again, this has the mounting holes. So all I do is I'm going to drill backwards this way through the boot, and then for this section here we're going to have to cut out basically a nice cutout in the boot so it can slip through and through into this bolt right here. But luckily that means that these lights are going to be lined up perfectly, which I'm freaking pumped about, because that's what I was concerned about, is getting them like perfect in the boot. But I really think this is going to be the finishing touch on the rear end to make it look more Evo spec. Freaking pumped. So let's go ahead, drill some holes and kind of see how it comes out. Alright, so we have our template here that we need to cut out with the angle grinder. That's going to be fun. I'll try not to F that up, so we're going to do that now. And then our lights should bolt in there nicely, so I didn't even look this up online. I just kind of assumed this is how you're supposed to do it, so if it's wrong and I'm doing the wrong thing, sorry in advance, but also I don't really care. YOLO, let's go. Alright, so both of the lights are installed. Now it's time to shut the boot and see how this thing frickin' looks for the final time. Hell yeah. 3, 2, 1.
Spread your wings and fly, go!
There you have it. The Evo rear conversion is done. And now finally the back of the car looks just as good as the front of the car. It looks so freaking good. So I think the look and feel of the car is complete. One thing we could do is change this wing. This wing's like an Evo 5 and 6 style wing, whereas the rest of the car, the styling is more an Evo 4 style. But I like the mix. I don't really mind it too much. Ooh, I just can't get over how much those inner lights changed the whole back of the car. It looks so damn good. Well, there you have it, guys. Rear end's all done on the Fevo. Looks fantastic. Next up for this car, we will be throwing a new clutch in it and taking it to the dyno to retune it. I know you guys are pumped about that, so we'll try and get that done ASAP. Potentially before the tune we may throw a smaller turbo on it, and I'm also thinking maybe we'll do a custom turbo manifold as well. We've got Damon from GMF Fab, he's amazing, and I've just been looking at the manifold that we have on the car at the moment. We use the stock headers and they're just a little bit restrictive, but that's for another video. Coming up next, we will be back working on the Civic, episode 2 of the Civic build. Got a bunch of modifications going on in there, and of course we've got to clean that stanky interior. I've done the bug bomb in it, so it should be pretty good to go. Hopefully no more freaking spiders in it. Thank you guys for watching. As always, make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. If you haven't subscribed but you do watch the videos, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It genuinely helps the channel. I think the next video I should be announcing the date for the factory meet. It's coming up really quickly actually. I've got a date in mind. I've just got to confirm a couple of things. Keep an eye on my social media at It's Mike Lake if you guys want to know the date as soon as it's announced, because by the time I drop the video I think I'm going to announce a date before that. As always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers. You. Peace. Bye.